This is Michael Knowles. I mean, the important thing about showing this, it seems to me, the Daily Wire is just sort of like this, I don't know, a beehive of fundamentalism. And it comes in different stripes. They have diversity. There are, Jewish fundamentalists as well as Christian fundamentalists.
Mm-hmm. There are doctor fundamentalists, such as the Dr. Jordan Peterson. At least for now, he's a doctor.
Still has it. This is it's an interesting clip because it really does show the how much the religious fundamentalism impacts every perspective on anything it involves with sexuality, with pregnancy, with rights for women, rights for LGBTQ people, on and on. It permeates everything for them.
Why did Gallup show a 7-point drop in support for same-sex relations of any kind? Because people are beginning to pull on the thread of transing the kids and realizing that because ideas have consequences, bad consequences come from bad ideas. And so they're going all the way back, and forget redefining marriage or whatever. You go all the way back to the beginning of the sexual revolution. And you go all the way back to contraception. There were two cases, Eisenstadt and Griswold. First was Griswold in 1965. Then Eisenstadt comes around in 1972, the year before Roe v. Wade. And Griswold finds a right to condoms within a marriage. Where is that in the Constitution? I have no idea, but some libs on the court discovered that magically in 1965. But they said, but there is no right to condoms outside of marriage. Then 7 years later, the court discovers, oh, actually, there was more invisible ink in the Constitution, and actually there is a right to condoms outside of marriage. Okay, maybe you like condoms, maybe you don't like condoms.
I don't know where you're going. It should be clear that what the court found was not specifically there's a right to condoms. The court found that adults have a certain amount of privacy, and the state cannot interfere in the most private of relations that people have. And because there was a puritanical perspective in this country, it took a while for people to be okay with people having sex.
Yeah. And Griswold was just about married couples as well.
Well, yes, but then he says in Eisenstadt expands it, and then we see it in the context of sodomy laws and changes in, like, you know what? It's consenting adults have the right to have sex in the way that they want to. But
Lawrence v. Texas.
There you go. Exactly.
And then also he mentions the sexual revolution. We'll get into that in a little bit. But when they say that, just that's code for feminist waves of female liberation sexually.
Well, yes. I mean, literally, he's talking about the idea that you can use birth control, that you have a right to use birth control. This is the same guy, incidentally, that on any other property issue, you have a fundamental right to own something. But under the idea of preventing pregnancy, and we remember, we have heard clips like this from Knowles and Walsh in the past, and Crowder. We let it slide with condoms and with birth control, and we let it slide with abortion, and we let it slide with gay marriage, and here we are. This is their attempt. This is the blowback. This is their attempt to go back and, it's all part of a whole. It's not just about the sexual revolution or the emancipation of women, but also about all the emancipation that took place during that era. Civil rights, broadly speaking, all of this. This is where he's going. This is his project. Go back just a little bit.
Right to condoms within a marriage. Where is that in the Constitution? I have no idea, but some libs on the court discovered that magically in 1965. But they said, but there is no right to condoms outside of marriage. Then 7 years later, the court discovers, oh, actually, there was more invisible ink in the Constitution, and actually, there is a right to condoms outside of marriage. Okay, maybe you like condoms, maybe you don't like condoms. I don't know where you're going to find that in the Constitution. I think a lot of people are beginning to notice that the contraceptive mentality is the beginning of the pride mentality, because the contraceptive mentality divorces sex from the consequences of sex. It introduces a sterile sexual ethic. which is exactly what gave us the Pride movement. There's no distinction here. If you can't read between the lines, the conclusion that one draws is that condoms are kind of gay. To put it as bluntly as possible, okay? And it's not a coincidence that female conservative influencers noticed by NBC News are beginning to pick up on that.
What the hell is he talking about at the end there?
About the female conservative.
See if you can find that, Bradley.
There must be like Christian YouTubers saying you can't have sex without having the children. But the idea that that condoms are gay. Understand, this is important stuff, because you can start to dig in and understand where the homophobia comes from, where the misogyny, how the relationship between homophobia and misogyny coexist, how even the transphobia is also misogynistic. These are all, I used to say about people who well, I'm going to vote for Obama, but I'm not going to vote for two non-normal presidents at once. And the point being that when you have these worldviews, you don't break them down into sort of discrete columns of this is transphobia, this is homophobia, this is misogyny. No, what you are against all of it that controverts your sort of everything else is other. Anything that controverts your fundamental principles, in this case, religious fundamentalism, is all just sort of in the no cross line, in the taboo zone.
Yeah.
And they're all just equally as bad. They don't need to be delineated in terms of why they're wrong, because they're all just wrong relative to your sort of theocratic, patriarchal, fascistic.
Yeah. I mean, it's all about maintaining boundaries of sexuality and, by extension, sex and gender.
And all of the rights within the world that are implied with that. So, for instance, AIC Dub just says women rights are gay as F, bro, which is, yes, they are, because they are gay in the sense that he's talking about it, is that if you allow women to enter into the workplace, if you allow them to be able to be self-sustaining in any way, they are not forced to fulfill their one obligation, which is to be a baby-making machine for the man. And if they're not a baby-making machine for the man might as well be loving another man.
That's also why transphobia towards trans women is so acute, is because trans women fly in the face of that entire notion of womanhood, is that women are supposed to be earthen vessels, as Madison Cawthorn once said on the House floor, for men's sperm and for their children. And that's why condoms are gay too. If your manhood is not primarily about being virile or impregnating your girlfriend or your wife, or I guess in Michael Knowles' instance, he'd say in the confines of marriage, then that's pretty gay, right? That's pretty gay.
Exactly.
And that makes you essentially not that much of a man. That makes you not a godly man in that way. It's interesting that he's going for condoms too, because we said this when Dobbs happened, right? We said this when the right to abortion was rolled back. They're going to be coming for Plan B. They're going to be coming for IUDs next. Any kind of birth control where the woman has agency, where she makes herself, or the cis woman, or the person who can get pregnant, into a blocking off the ability to get pregnant, and when they can take it, birth control pills included, and it's under their auspices, it's under their control, that's what they're going to come for next. And condoms, I think, will still be on the market for sure, because the man has control over that, or the person with the penis. And that's what they want. They want men to be in control of the reproduction of the family. And women don't have choices in that regard.
That's right. I mean, and that's
And if you
their
choose to
fundamental
have,
worldview.
if you choose to have sex and you're choosing to have sex in a way that's just for pleasure, and you might be considering that your partner, your female partner, might not want to get pregnant at this time, that's kind of gay, right? You are not doing what God intended, and that makes you gay.
Somebody tweeted at me, or somewhere, somebody had pulled out that clip from FUBAR, and I thought I had it, where the guy was talking about gay sex. And what's that?
It being like an intoxicant. Basically.
Yes.
Heroin, yeah.
And I didn't find it. It happened, I think, when I was on vacation. I can't find it. I'm gonna find it eventually. But this is this guy's fighting. Well, I'm not saying this guy is, although he may be, but there is like they're in a constant battle within their own minds to make sure that, like, anything that isn't sort of biblically prescribed is avoided in some fashion. And it's an interesting way that they're repackaging the exact same old stuff.
Except he says the sexual revolution. That is when women said we're going to gain more power over our reproductive rights, over our sexual health, over ourselves in the workplace, and it bumped up against patriarchy. I mean, I know like people make fun of that term, the patriarchy, but that's what this is. It's about domination, men being superior, women being of the rib of Adam. It's the same reason that trans women get that amount of hatred towards them, because how could you want to be a woman? How could you want to be the lesser of the two? The woman who... Well,
also, you're not going to fulfill the fundamental, the essential obligation of women, which is not to have a fulfilling life, is not to exist.
No, of men though. If they're trans women, it's like you have a penis. Your job is to be why would you choose to be the lesser sex? That's the implicit kind of, I think, underlying undercurrent of turfism. Yeah, right.
To not have the ability, why would you want to be a woman if you can't bear children?
Right.
Like there's there's this really, I also think, kind of pervasive.
Well, but it's not just a question of why would you want to. The question is, you cannot allow that to be the case.
It's not
because
possible.
A woman's fundamental role, according to them, is to have a child.
Right.
If you don't do that, you have no value. And therefore, there is no value to a woman. So it's not even a question of why would you want to. It's that we can't allow it. Because if we allow for the existence of trans women, then we also implicitly allow for the existence of women who have no intention to get pregnant and to provide a child. That's the problem. Because and if we allow women who and everything that they have an issue with, women in the workforce, because that also allows them not to fulfill their fundamental required role, which is to bear children for men and to be subservient to men in that regard. So all of this is all part of a whole.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's this fascinating recent. I feel like it's probably not recent. Just I've seen this with Knowles and then Elon Musk recently, obviously being very much like a pro-natalist, childbirth, proponent. Is this idea of recreational sex or casual sex being almost like its own sin or its own pejorative, because there was this one recent interview that Musk did where he basically said that he said the similar thing, that birth control and contraception decoupled the original value and utility of sex.
Yeah.
That sex is the purpose of sex, the utility of sex is to produce children. And contraception and birth control and women not having children removes the biological force behind sex.
Yep.
It's seemingly a very much a coordinated, or at least like a mind meld behind not just sex, it's like sex being bad, but not having children being bad, women needing to have children to sort of confer their womanhood.
Yeah.
This is I found it. Pop this up. I don't know if it's exactly on point, but on some level, it does express the sort of like the origins of the intense sort of homophobia. And this is the, make it a little bit bigger. He wrote, this is Dr. Paul Cameron, who was the founder of the Family Research Institute and the Institute for Scientific Investigation of Sexuality. If you isolate sexuality as something solely for one's own personal amusement, and all you want is the most satisfying orgasm you can get. And remember now, this is all like why, according to Knowles, it is gay if you have sex without the purpose of procreation, if you have it with condoms or with, presumably any type of like birth control. And all you want is the most satisfying orgasm you can get, and that is what homosexuality seems to be, then homosexuality seems too powerful to resist. The evidence is that men do a better job on men and women on women if all you're looking for is orgasm.
Wait.
I'm convinced that lesbians are particularly good seducers. It's pure sexuality. It's almost like pure heroin. It's such a rush. They are committed in an almost religious way, and they'll take enormous risks, do anything. Marital sex tends towards the boring end. Generally, it doesn't deliver the sheer sexual pleasure that the homosexual does.
Seems like a personal.
Yeah, I mean, for you, it's like he does not get the intense orgasm when he cuts the hole in the sheet. But when he goes out on the town with the guys.
To go back to Bradley's point about Elon Musk, it's a bit rich of him talking about how you only have sex for reproductive purposes. This guy who propositioned a flight attendant on a airplane said, per the declaration, which was seen by Insider, Musk had summoned the flight attendant for a full body massage in which he was expected for a sheet covering the lower half. The woman's claim per his declaration is that Musk exposed his penis, touched her, and offered to buy her a horse if she were willing to perform a sex act.
Oh, that was necessary.
I don't know how that fits in with
What was the sex act to bear a child?
Yeah.
So
Actually,
that's consistent.
Yeah. Rejecting modernity with the horse.
that was a means to childbearing. Actually.
Yeah. And the lack of birth control.